Welcome back, Source Nation. All right, you guys, if you were listening to the show prior to me coming on, I want to make sure that we do our indie artists justice and make sure that we guide you guys to their show. There was a spoken word artist who came on right before I came on the air. He's going to be in the studio on Saturday at 4:15, and the title of the spoken word that you heard from him was The One That Got Away. 4:15 this Saturday. Make sure you check him out. We try to support our indie artists. Also, you guys, there's the song that just played by our indie artist. That was Rashandra Angel. She'll be in the studio at 2:15, and the name of her song is Rise. So make sure you check out and support our indie artists. They're doing good things. They're doing big things. Make sure you support them on our Indie Soul Saturdays. All right, you guys. Without further ado, I believe we do have our guest in the studio. And once again, who's joining us is Dr. Mostafa Hefny. Is Dr. Hefny in the studio with me?
Yes, I'm with you.
Hey, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. We are going to jump right into the interview. I know we have a couple of questions that have already come in. If you could take just a moment and just introduce yourself and a little bit of your story with our audience.
Okay. My name is Dr. Mostafa Hefny. I'm an Egyptian Nubian and a naturalized U.S. citizen. I hold a PhD in education from Wayne State University in Detroit, and I was a bilingual resource teacher with Wayne County Regional Education Service Agency in Wayne, Michigan for 13 years. I am a black man, but I'm classified as white by the U.S. government. There are thousands of Egyptian Nubians who are also blacks like me, but classified as whites by the government, and they're going to file a class action lawsuit against the government before the presidential elections.
Okay, so now let's go into that, because it sounds really strange for people who have not heard that. You're black, clearly African American. I told people if they have not seen your picture to go to our social media page so they could see that you clearly have features of a black man. But according to what is the Federal Office of Management and Budget Standards, they classify
Directive number 15 of the Office of Management and Budget. This directive classifies everybody according to the geographical region rather than the ancestry and the physical features.
Right. But now, is this? I read that it says a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, North Africa, or the Middle East, then they are to be classified as white. So, in the beginning, that's how you were swept up into having to be classified as white.
Correct.
Okay, to me, why you think that Directive number 15 is stated the way it is, including North Africa and including the Middle East, and having to be classified as white?
There is a war in academia between black scholars and white scholars over whether the ancient Egyptian civilization was a black civilization or a white civilization, and whether the Nubian civilization was a black civilization or a white civilization. And by classifying Egyptian Nubians, by the U.S. government classifying Egyptian Nubians as whites, they are supporting the claim of the racist white scholars that the Nubians are white.
So you're not the only person who's fighting to change the classification. Do you know about how many people are fighting or have, supported you in circles?
Yes, there are no official records of how many Egyptian Nubians are in this country. In Washington, D.C. alone, there are about 1,000 of them, 1,000 Egyptian Nubians. And hundreds of Egyptian Nubians are going to join in a class action lawsuit against the U.S. government to get the racial classification changed from whites to blacks.
Right, and for people out there who hear this and ask, what is the big deal? You're able to list yourself as being white, which means maybe you can tap into white privilege. You know, you maybe can escape some of the things that happen to people who are classified as black. But let's talk about your personal story for a minute, what this has done to you. You came to the U.S. in, was it 1978, correct?
Yes.
And just give me a little bit about your story and what this has caused for you.
I came to this country in 1978, and because I grew up at a time when Arab nationalism was widespread in all over the Arab world, and Egypt was leading this movement of Arab nationalism, I believed that I was Arab first and black second. And all the Nubians in Egypt who grew up at this period of time believed that they were Arab first and black second, but nothing white whatsoever. Okay? When I came to this country, I was Arab first and black second. But gradually, when I interacted with African Americans who are PhD students and master students at Wayne State University and scholars, I found out that the Nubians are black people, black African people, and they have achieved a lot, and that the ancient Egyptians are blacks as well. And I personally changed from a person who is Arab first and black second. By 1988, 1989, I became black first, black second, and black last.
Wow. So let me go over that. Growing up in Egypt, you did not define yourself as being black.
No, there are no racial classifications in Egypt, by the way.
Right.
No official racial classifications in Egypt. You are never requested to indicate your race on any form or any paper whatsoever. If you are black, you know you're black, and people know that you are black by your features, by your appearance.
Right.
Do you understand? If you are tan or olive color, in terms of the skin color, people know that you are tan. And that's it. There are no official racial categories.
So when you first reached out to reclassify yourself with the U.S. government, what kind of obstacles did they put up?
When I became a citizen in 1985, I had to take a test in government and language. I passed the language and the government test. And then the interviewer said, "Congratulations, you are now a U.S. citizen and you are now white." I said, "What? I have been black my entire life." Okay? He said, "No, from now on, whenever you get a form asking about your race, say that you're white." That's a fact. That's a fact.
Wow.
That's a fact.
So when did you begin to try to fight it and say that I'm black and try to be?
I began to fight it at my place of employment, Wayne County Regional Education Service Agency. For short, they call themselves Wayne County RESA. It's a white school district, the link between the state level and the local level. Okay? The Regional Education Service Agency is this link between the state level and the local level. 36 school districts in Wayne County report to us. And this is a white establishment, and I was almost the only black there with a few other black secretaries. And we received a form from the Director of Human Resources called the Race Ethnic Identification Card. We were requested to indicate our race on this card. I wrote that I am black. A few days later, the Director of Human Resources sent me a letter, which is posted on Facebook, my Facebook page. She sent me a letter saying that you are white, not black. You are directed to change your classification on the Race Ethnic Identification Card. Failure to do so will result in your serious ramifications for your career, blah, 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 blah. She threatened me. I did not change it. And then initial S, I'm not going to mention his name. I'm going to mention his name once I hire a powerful attorney. Initial S, one of the top supervisors, one of the top leaders in this organization, called me to his office and said, "If you ever say you're black again, no one will hire you. And if hired, you will be running from one job to the other for the rest of your life." I kept saying that I am black. Because I'm proud of being black.
And this was the beginning of a campaign of persecution. I was denied promotions twice. I was harassed. I was ridiculed. I was called nigger. And I ended up living on Social Security psychiatric disability, which lasted 10 years. All the psychiatrists who treated me said that my injury, my psychiatric injury, was work-related. And when I recovered and went back into the workforce, I got fired 5 times in 1 year because of this threat.
Wow. Now, are you,
yes.
to your knowledge, are you the only one fighting this hard to be reclassified to what you actually are?
As far as I know, I am the only one who is publicly doing this. Okay? Publicly doing this. But I'm organizing Egyptian Nubians. I have been organizing Egyptian Nubians for a month or 2 now. Okay? And they want to file a class action lawsuit. They want the racial classification changed from whites to blacks.
Now, you're organizing other Egyptian Nubians who may not have spoken out about this. Have you found out
Correct.
why they have chosen to not speak out with this classification?
Probably, they were probably afraid. Probably.
Okay. And so you've had the guts to actually speak out and take the ridicule.
Correct. I paid for it, but that's okay. The cause is worth the sacrifice.
Right.
I would never give up this fight until I get reclassified as a black person. Never. It's a matter of principle to me. I will never give up this fight. I am willing to lay down my life for these 2 causes, the cause of black racial pride and the cause of restoring the Nubian civilization to the black race.
Right, and I want to say that I think that what you are doing is it's such a huge ordeal, because you're right. I mean, you are correcting a wrong that was done centuries ago and has been carried on. And I wanted to say this and ask you a question. I think it's so ironic when you look at the system of white supremacy, how they chose to classify black people in America with the one-drop rule. So clearly they would look at your physical features in America to see if you looked Negroid. Even when they went to expand and they took over Australia, they did the same thing to the indigenous people who were black featured people. You know, even as so much as, you know, sticking the pencil in their hair to see if their kinky hair would hold the pencil or let it fall out. That was one of the tests to determine whether they were Negro or not. So in all these countries, they would be quick to, quote unquote, label you first a minority and call you black or Negro or whatever have you, but you would definitely be non-white by your physical features.
Correct.
But according to this document, you know, these countries, they are making it basically mandatory. So now they skip over your physical features. So I'm saying
they
that
skip
really
over what?
Audience, they your physical features are obsolete. They don't look at your physical features because clearly you
what
are
do you look
black
at now?
Well, no, I'm saying that in these countries where they've labeled you as white, they're not looking at your physical features. In other words, they want to claim an area. They want to claim history of an area.
Correct. Exactly.
So I just think it's really ironic.
This is exactly what my position is.
Right. And how they can, the same system can change how they classify you based on the area that they're in to how it will benefit them.
Correct.
So
I have a statement from the president and the founder of Nubia Project, the largest Nubian organization in the U.S. He says that Dr. Mostafa Hefny is a black African. He's an Egyptian Nubian. He's a black African. And Egyptian Nubians are black Africans. And we're going to use this in court.
And so now you reached out to Barack Obama, okay? America's first
I wrote him a letter,
black
yes.
president. Mm-hmm. Now, he's a president who's from or descendants or from Africa, and you're from Africa, and black men corresponding. Did you get a response back from Barack Obama?
I wrote to him. I sent him a certified mail letter that was received in the White House on July 12, 2012. the stamp says the White House, July 12, 2012. It was received. He did not respond. I sent a certified mail letter to his wife, Mrs. Michelle Obama, with a copy of my letter to the president, asking her to forward it to him. She did not respond. In the letter, I'm asking for a settlement to declare me a black man. I'm not asking for any money.
Right. So now, if you win the class action lawsuit, which I truly hope you do, and we're going to give out your information at the end of this, so if you need people to sign or whatever have you, however we can get our audience to help, we want to help. But if this class action lawsuit wins, what does that mean? Is that more than just relabeling blacks or Nubians and correcting history? What does that open them up for additional lawsuits?
It will open a nationwide debate over the Nubian history and ancient Egyptian history, and whether the ancient Egyptians are black or white or what, and also the question of whether the Nubians are black or white or what. It will open a can of worms, as a matter of fact, and this is desirable. We want this can of worms to be opened up.
Right, and I'm thinking in the areas of even education. The history books that have taught us wrong here, do you think they will open lawsuits or make them vulnerable in that area when it comes to lawsuits on...
Yes.
on
Yes. Because of the debate that will follow the filing of the lawsuit, the debate. I am a very outspoken person. I have become a very outspoken person. Okay? I wasn't like this before. And I will carry this fight all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court if necessary.
Right. And before you came on the air, I was speaking in one of my Great Griot videos. I pulled in a clip of W.E.B. Du Bois' wife. During later in their years, they actually went to Africa. But she spoke at a university back here in America. And everything that you're fighting for, she was speaking about in the beginning of the speech. And it's how...
Who?
W.E.B. Du Bois' wife.
She was speaking about me?
No, not about you, but about the scenario that had come back from Egypt. And she saw how they were trying to intentionally just whitewash Egypt.
Correct.
And coming back into this country, the information and the history that we get in America and that we've been fed for decade after decade after decade here, she was sharing with this university that it has been completely whitewashed, and she said that it was absolutely intentional. And she was sharing with the university that, Egypt is nothing that we know about here. But in hearing her speech, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in hearing her speech...
Let me point this out.
Mm-hmm.
In my PhD dissertation, the topic of my PhD dissertation was the treatment, content analysis of the treatment of ancient Egypt in secondary level world history textbooks in the light of the academic debate over the race and origin of ancient Egyptians. Okay? I was discussing how the world history textbooks that are taught at the 11th grade and the 12th grade portray ancient Egypt in terms of race. Okay? And I discussed the ideology of white supremacy and black inferiority in detail in about 20 pages, the history of this ideology. And I discussed the debate over the race and origin of ancient Egyptians in about 20 more pages. Okay? So I am very versed on this issue. The white supremacy and black inferiority developed in the last quarter of the 17th century. Okay? To justify to the Christian conscience of slave owners and white settlers the enslavement and the brutal treatments of Africans on the plantations. They wanted their conscience to be clear because they were Christian. Okay?
Right.
What they were doing was non-Christian. So they had to do two things. They had to dehumanize the Africans, and they did this, and they had to rewrite history because ancient Greek and Roman scholars, all of them, wrote in their books that the ancient Egyptians and the Nubians are black people. It was not disputed until the rise of white supremacy and black inferiority in the last quarter of the 17th century. Okay, so they had to rewrite history and whiten ancient Egypt and whiten Nubia, and as well they whitened Ethiopia, because Ethiopia developed a civilization also before Christ. So they had to whiten these three countries, to the point that Emperor Haile Selassie, the former ruler of Ethiopia, when he came to this country, he made a statement to the media that we are black people. We don't understand why you are describing us as whites. We are black people. Ethiopians are black people. He made this statement to the media. So anyway, I discussed this in my dissertation. If anybody is interested in buying a copy of this dissertation, it's available at Microfilm International in Ann Arbor, Michigan, for about $30 or $35.
Okay. Okay, and I'm going to get your information also and put it on my social media page so that we can have access to get that. So let me ask you, Dr. Hefney, do you, in everything that you just said, when you talk to a black person in America today and ask them about their knowledge of Egypt and prior civilizations and where we come from, do you think that their plan and what they devised, did it work?
What's that again?
Do you think that their plan, their purpose in trying to whitewash Egypt, a black civilization, when you talk to your everyday black person in America today, yes, did their plan work?
There is an increasing number of African Americans who know the truth. Okay, they were not brainwashed by the mainstream school textbooks and media. They were not brainwashed by that, and they know the truth. Okay, but the whites do not know the truth, and they do not want to know the truth, and we have to let them know the truth.
Right. Right. And I feel like there's plenty of media out there that is speaking the truth, but you're right. A lot of white people are not interested in knowing anything different than what they've also been taught.
Correct. It makes them feel good about themselves.
Right.
They take credit for civilization that they have nothing to do with.
Right. Right. We have a couple questions that's coming in. Before we get to the questions, how can an audience help? I mean, you're involved in a class action lawsuit.
It has been filed yet. We're going to hire the best attorney in the country, Mr. Jeffrey Feiger from Michigan. The best attorney in the country. He will be hired. He likes controversial cases. We will hire him. He's good with the media. He's good with the federal government. We're going to hire him.
And what is his basis of his argument and his stance against the U.S. government?
I don't know his argument, but he takes controversial cases. He likes high profile cases. He represented Dr. Kevorkian. You remember him?
Yes.
Dr. Kevorkian, the assisted suicide doctor.
Right.
He got off the hook. Yes. And he represents a lot of people, including black people.
So now you said you don't want money. You just want to be able to classify yourself clearly as being black, and you connect with other Nubians.
Correct.
You connect with other Nubians. What do they want out of this? And if you can reclassify yourself, what do you plan to do with that?
What's that again?
Knowledge. If you are able to reclassify yourself and you guys win the class action lawsuit, what will you do with that information? What will you do with that win?
I wrote an autobiography entitled "They Classified Him as a White Man," subtitled "The Life of Dr. Mostafa Hefny." It covers history, politics, economics, the debate over the race of ancient Egyptians and the Nubians. It's about 400 pages, and it will be published this winter. I'm just waiting for the class action lawsuit to be filed, and we'll get the book published.
Wow. Very good. Very good. I'm going to get to some of the questions so I can make sure we have time for them. The first question that comes off of Facebook says, so did you ultimately lose your job because of this?
Ultimately what?
Did you ultimately lose your job because of this?
No, I left on Social Security psychiatric disability. And then I resigned after that while I was on disability.
Okay.
But I got fired as a result of this threat from Initial S. I got fired 5 times in 1 year.
And you said you received death threats?
Yes. If you ever say you're black again, no one will hire you. And if hired, you'll be running from one job to the other for the rest of your life. By the way, I filed 2 Equal Employment Opportunity Commission discrimination charges, and both were dismissed without investigating my evidence through ingenious manipulations as a result of the high-level connections of Initial S and Wayne County, Teresa. I filed 5 letters of complaint with the U.S. Attorney General at this time, Richard Thornburg. It was never investigated. I never received a response, nothing whatsoever. And it was all sent by certified mail letter. I have the receipts.
Wow. And
yes.
I'm sure all of this would be.
Oh, the book will open a can of worms. Believe me, my book will open a can of worms. 2 EEOC discrimination charges were dismissed without investigating my evidence, and 5 letters of complaint to the U.S. Attorney General. One of them is about this threat that I will be fired, that I'll be running from one job to the other for the rest of my life. No investigation whatsoever. No response, no investigation whatsoever.
Wow.
Yes.
Next question says, have you experienced racism even though you are classified as a white man?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the suburbs of Detroit, there are places I can't go to. If I go, I will be stared at and I will not be served. That's a fact. That's a fact. By the way, there is a suburb of Detroit called Dearborn. This is where the Arab immigrants live. It's about maybe 30% or 35% Arabs. Dearborn, Michigan. So when I first came to this country, I lived in Detroit for a short period of time and then moved to Dearborn. I experienced a lot of hatred, a lot of comments, racist comments, and as a matter of fact, I was talking to the owner of a grocery store at the corner of my street in Arabic, and I said I moved I moved to a house on this street just recently. He said, "Are you the black man that they're going to beat up and kick out?" I said, "What?" He said, "Yes. The neighbors are saying that there is a black man moved into the neighborhood, and they're going to beat him up and kick him out of the neighborhood." This was me. They were talking about me.
And they
were talking about me. I'm sorry?
And this was the Arab?
The owner of the grocery store is Arab. Is Arabic. And I was speaking Arabic with him, okay? Right. And I said, I just moved to this neighborhood. And he looked at my face and said, "Are you the black man who just moved in on this street? They're going to beat you up and kick you out of this neighborhood." So I moved out of Dearborn. I left Dearborn. Went back to Detroit.
So now let me ask this question, because we have gone through a couple of extremes in America. You know, we have been fed the extreme whitewash, you know, that Egyptians were white, and we even see the movies, you know, like we see Cleopatra, which was played by a white person.
All the movies that comes out of Hollywood, ancient Egyptians are white.
Right. But if you notice a progression over time, especially since the truth has come out and more black people know that Egyptians were black people, but it transitioned from being white to being Arab, to being, you know, they still didn't want to say there was black people, so they used this extremely light color. So when you look at movies like The Prince of Egypt, you know, when you look at the movie that just came out recently, I think the movie that Egypt actually banned from showing over there, a recent movie, they use olive-colored people to portray the roles, which means they're still trying to take it away.
That's an improvement. That's an improvement. It's not the total truth, but this is a step forward. A step forward. Remember that Elizabeth Taylor portrayed an Egyptian queen. Elizabeth Taylor, with her blue eyes, portrayed an Egyptian queen.
Right. Right. And so another question that came in, it says, are there any Nubian Egyptians that are against what you're doing?
I don't know any of them. None of them.
So you're getting 100% support?
Yes.
That's awesome. We have.
I'm still working on it, by the way. It's not finished yet. I'm still working on it.
No. Say that for me one more time.
I am still working on it. I'm still organizing them. It's not finished yet. But the lawsuit will be filed before the presidential elections, that's for sure. The class action lawsuit.
So you're putting a lot of work into bringing out the Nubians and actually creating this class action lawsuit. What all is it taking for that? And how are you finding other Nubian Egyptians that have had to go through the same struggle you've gone through, classifying themselves as white?
Would you repeat this, please?
Sure. How are you finding other Egyptian Nubians who have gone through your exact story, being able to or having to classify themselves as being white?
We didn't discuss this point. Honestly, we did not discuss this point.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now, if you could just give our audience one more time the information on how they can get a copy of your dissertation, if they want to read more information about that, and then how they can maybe connect with the media.
Connect with what?
How they can connect with you also if you're on social media, if they have further questions for you.
The dissertation, you can find the dissertation at University Microfilm International in Ann Arbor, Ann Arbor, A-N-N, Arbor, A-R-B-O-R, Ann Arbor, Michigan, University Microfilm International. Just give them the date of the dissertation, 1995, and my name, Mostafa Hefny. They will put it up for you.
Okay. And do you have an email address where someone can reach out to you if they have more questions?
They can call me directly. You can give them my phone number. I don't mind.
Okay. If you can give us your phone number now, so those listening can maybe jot it down.
Yes. Area code 313-878-2076. Again, area code 313-878-2076.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Hefney. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. I truly hope that we get some great information back from your class action lawsuit. And,
Thank you.
I hope it's just one more chip away at white supremacy and really showing black people what our people were capable of in the civilizations that we built.
Correct. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.